Maya's tray rattled when the billionaire at table 7 folded a crisp $100 bill into a paper airplane and launched it straight at her apron. The bill slipped to the marble floor, his friends cackled, and every eye in the restaurant swung to the only black waitress on the floor. Parlez-vous français? Henry Beaumont boomed, voice thick with brandy and arrogance. Come now, amuse us. Recite tonight's specials in perfect French, or that, he pointed to the fallen cash, stays on the ground. 10 seconds. That was all it took for the night to tilt beneath Maya like a ship in rough water. She swallowed, pulse hammering, aware of crystal chandeliers, clinking glasses, cell phone cameras sliding up from expensive jackets. A single mispronounced syllable could end her shift, and maybe her job. She inhaled, drawing on the practiced calm that carried her through double shifts. Bonsoir, monsieur et madame, she began, voice low, accent careful. The aroma of butter and thyme drifted from the open kitchen as she delivered the entree list flawlessly, until her tongue caught on one word, rouilly. The vowel landed a fraction flat. A ripple of laughter spread, slow and cruel. Henry slapped the white linen, delighted. Again, he barked, with feeling this time. We paid for the theatrics. Heat clawed up Maya's neck. Her manager, Diane, hovered near the bar watching. One mistake and Diane would side with the billionaire. Tips like Henry's paid the rent on crystal stemware. Maya's mother had once told her that language was music carried on breath. But here, breath felt like broken glass. For a heartbeat, she saw her mother, Professor Celeste Dubois, coaching students in a New Orleans lecture hall, soft Creole accent dancing over Balzac passages. Celeste's voice was the first lullaby Maya ever heard. A drunk driver stole it 11 years ago. The memory punched the air from Maya's lungs. Henry clicked his fingers. Well, are we waiting for subtitles? Something inside her cracked, but did not shatter. She knelt, retrieved the bill, and set it on the table. Sir, if the pronunciation displeased you, I can request another server. The table erupted again. Request another server, one woman echoed in mock falsetto. Phones captured every twitch of Maya's face. The video would be online before the dishes reached dessert. Luis, the 16-year-old busboy, hovered by the bread warmer, cheeks blazing on Maya's behalf. He whispered, "You don't have to take this." But she did. Rent was due in 4 days. Her little brother's community college tuition deadline loomed. She straightened, spine stiff. "Allow me to try once more," she said, and launched into the full French menu, diction sharp as a paring knife. Henry leaned back, arms crossed, searching for a fault line. He found none, until Maya finished with a polite nod instead of theatrical flourish. "That's it?" he scoffed. "What a waste of potential drama. Sing something, then. An Edith Piaf, perhaps?" Gas fluttered from neighboring tables. Diane finally stepped in, placing a manicured hand on Maya's shoulder as though steadying a misbehaving child. "Mr. Beaumont, perhaps dessert. Our soufflé is excellent tonight." Henry lifted a brow. "I'm paying for entertainment, not soufflé." He tapped his Rolex. 3 minutes, waitress. Impress me." Maya's mouth went dry. Sing, in French, to a man who treated her language like a parlor trick. The ceiling seemed to press down. She glanced at Luis. He shook his head, mouthing, "Walk away." But walking would mean surrendering rent, tuition, dignity. Another memory rose, her mother at the piano, guiding Maya through La Vie en Rose, praising the subtle lilt in her vowels. Maya hadn't sung in public since the funeral. She opened her mouth, and the maitre d' suddenly appeared with a forced smile. "Table 7, your appetizers have arrived." Plates landed, steam clouding the tension. Temporarily spared, Maya escaped to the service corridor and braced her hands against cool tile. Tears threatened. She would not give Henry the satisfaction of seeing them. From behind, Luis whispered, "You could own him if you wanted." "I saw your Instagram video last year. Your accent is fire." She wiped her eyes. "Fire can still burn its owner." Luis held out a steaming coffee cup. "Or forge something stronger." She managed a brittle smile, grateful. Then Diane's voice sliced through the corridor. "Maya, kitchen wants you. Beaumont's table is demanding soufflés. Make it quick." Back on the floor, Maya delivered the desserts with steady hands. Henry was already scrolling his phone. bored. Without looking up, he said, "You'll have another chance tomorrow night, waitress. I'm reserving the private room. Don't disappoint me again." Private room, more cameras, more humiliation. Maya's teeth clenched. She gathered empty glasses, turned, and saw a single diner at table 12 watching her. An elderly woman with silver hair and gentle eyes. She raised her wine glass in silent toast to Maya, as if to say, "Courage, child." The shift crawled to midnight. Tips were thin. Henry's table left nothing but that folded bill, forgotten beneath his saucer. Maya pocketed it reluctantly. On the back, Henry had scribbled in ballpoint, "Tomorrow, sing." Outside, rain glazed the sidewalk. Maya's reflection stared back from the dark glass. Chin high, eyes flaring with something dangerously close to resolve. The city hummed around her like an orchestra awaiting a conductor. As she walked to the subway, a fragment of Piaf drifted from her lips, soft but sure, tasting of New Orleans nights and a mother's faith. "Quand il me prend dans ses bras." Her accent rang true, unbroken. And for the first time all evening, Maya smiled. The billionaire wanted a show. Tomorrow he would get one, on her terms. The subway rocked Maya through Manhattan's sleepless tunnels, fluorescent lights flashing pale blue across battered steel. She sat with her apron folded, thumb rubbing a grease stain, replaying every sneer that had wobbled on her tongue. Tomorrow, sing. The note in her pocket burned hotter than any tip. She exited at 116th Street and climbed into Harlem night air. For a moment, she faced the old jazz club, where her mother once brought her on open mic Tuesdays. Now it was boutique condos. Loss again. In her fourth-floor walk-up, Maya set the kettle to boil the way Celeste had. 2 spoonfuls of honey before water to teach sweetness patience. She opened a shoebox of memories, photographs, a cassette of her mother reading Lamartine, an unopened Paris conservatory letter dated 3 months after the funeral. Celeste's voice, warm molasses, filled the kitchen. "Les morts sont les invisibles, mais non les absents." The dead are invisible, not absent. Fear loosened. Melody crept in. Maya opened her phone recorder and hummed scales, sliding from English vowels to French nasal tones. By the 3rd minute, her voice rang steady. She practiced the opening bars of La Vie en Rose, picturing Beaumont's smug face draining of color. At 2 a.m., the kettle whistled approval. Before she finally crawled into bed, she laid the $100 bill on her nightstand beside an overdue electric bill. Paper against paper, one filled with power, the other with consequence. She promised herself neither would control her voice tomorrow. Morning arrived wrapped in exhaustion. Maya swapped her uniform for a navy blazer and headed to her second job, front desk temp at a language exchange startup. During lunch, she cornered Leia Nguyen, the phonetics coach. "Help me tighten my Parisian R's." 20 minutes of drills later, Leia shook her head. "Why are you waiting tables? Your accent is gold." "Gold still needs a minor," Maya said, pocketing the compliment like a charm. Walking back to reception, she caught her reflection in chrome elevator doors, eyes ringed with fatigue yet shining with purpose. She realized she was no longer rehearsing merely to survive a shift. She was rehearsing to reclaim the parts of herself she'd silenced for tip jars and polite smiles. That thought scared her more than Beaumont's arrogance, but it also lit a fuse she couldn't put out. She called Luis. He answered on the first ring. "Tell me you're in." "Need backup," she said. "Sneak my Bluetooth speaker into the private room." "Done. And I found you something better than Piaf. An old Creole lullaby. Pure New Orleans soul." Her throat tightened. "Send it." Evening painted the sky mauve as Maya slipped through the staff door. Diane blocked her path. "Private party at 8. Mr. Beaumont wants champagne, caviar, and apparently a floor show. No surprises. HR is watching." Maya nodded. In the locker room, she hid the speaker inside her apron and tightened her ponytail like armor. Luis flashed a thumbs up from the dish pit. At 7:59, she entered the private salon. Mirrored walls, crystal chandeliers, a mahogany baby grand. Beaumont lounged at the head of a horseshoe table, diamond cufflinks winking. Around him, bankers, influencers, a senator whose grin looked stapled in place. "Mademoiselle," Beaumont trilled, "the floor is yours. Impress us, And try not to butcher any vowels. Phones rose like metal orchids. Adrenaline surged, then steadied. Maya set a fresh flute at Beaumont's elbow and whispered, "Let's raise the stakes." He arched a brow. "Oh, if I falter even once, I leave and never return. If I finish, you double every staff member's tip." Gas rippled. Beaumont loved wagers. "Done," he declared, clinking his glass. "Proceed." Maya pressed play. A gentle guitar strum filled the room. She began with Fais Dodo, Colas mon petit frère, her mother's hurricane lullaby. The Creole vowels floated soft as jasmine, carrying stories of marshland nights far from Manhattan steel. A minute in, she shifted into rapid-fire Parisian patter Leia drilled that morning. Smirks faded, brows lifted in surprise. Then she glided into Les Feuilles Mortes, each line a silk ribbon winding around chandelier light. Beaumont tapped his spoon, hunting a flaw. There was none. When the final note dissolved, silence throbbed, then burst into applause. Even the senator rose, clapping overhead. Louis whooped from the doorway. Diane arrived seconds later, cheeks flushed, half pride, half calculation. She whispered that reporters were already calling the front desk. Maya felt the ground tilt. What began as a bet had become a broadcast. She caught Louis's eye and mouthed, "Ready?" He grinned and patted the dish rag tucked in his belt like a flag of solidarity. Triumph warmed Maya's chest, but beneath it trembled a truth. She had stepped onto a stage she could never leave quietly. The mirrored walls felt too small. The city outside was about to learn her name. Sunlight slid across Manhattan's skyline like liquid gold. But Maya woke to darkness, her phone screen still glowing at 5:43 a.m. It pulsed with unfamiliar numbers, push alerts, and a single text from Louise. "Girl, you're trending. Chart Creole Queen is everywhere." Half asleep, she tapped a link. The video was shaky, shot through a champagne flute, but her voice cut crystal clear, carrying the lullaby from New Orleans straight into a million strangers' bedrooms. Views ticked upward so fast the counter looked broken. 987, 1,112, 1,319 every second. Comments piled beneath. "Who is this waitress?" Chills. Absolute chills. Someone sign her now. A bloom of adrenaline flared in her chest, half pride, half fear. She scrolled deeper. A gossip blog had posted a split screen. "Billionaires bait and mock stunt backfires." Underneath, a still shot of Henry Beaumont, lips pursed, eyes glassy with begrudging awe. The headline spun out across Reddit, then Twitter, then a breakfast TV chyron, "Waitress drags billionaire" in French. Maya's voicemail overflowed, a morning show in Chicago inviting her to tell your inspiring story, an indie record label promising studio time, an influencer manager offering instant brand synergy. She set the phone face down, heart pounding. "Focus," she told herself. But the world had already stormed her tiny apartment. By 8 a.m., the restaurant's facade was ringed with reporters. Maya slipped through the alley entrance in oversized sunglasses and a hoodie, hoping to avoid the circus. Diane waited in the staff corridor, jaw tight, HR rep at her side. "Corporate is concerned," the representative began, monotone. "Your performance last night violated protocol. Recording, live streams, unauthorized music. We have no choice but to place you on immediate unpaid leave while we investigate." Unpaid leave, a velvet-worded firing. Diane avoided Maya's gaze. Maya steadied her breath. "So I'm punished because a guest recorded me?" "You encouraged a performance," HR replied. "Policy's clear." "Policy is clear on harassment, too," Maya shot back, voice precise, each vowel a blade. "Yet when Mr. Beaumont mocked me, no one intervened." The hallway fell silent except for the buzz of a fluorescent light. HR cleared her throat. "You're free to contact legal if you disagree." Maya lifted her phone, hit record. "Please repeat that." HR's eyes widened. She turned on her heels. Power flipped, if only for a heartbeat. Louis appeared, dish towel tucked in his belt. "They can't do this." "They just did," Maya said, stuffing her apron into her tote. "But they gave me a story to tell on national television." She stepped outside to a wall of cameras. Microphones thrust forward like steel daisies. Questions fired. "Were you coerced?" Is Beaumont racist? Will you sue? She kept walking, but a young black journalist jogged beside her, voice low. People need to hear your side. We can control the narrative. Maya paused, reading sincerity in her eyes. I'll talk tonight. Give me time to breathe. She headed downtown to Midtown Community College, where her little brother Trey waited after class. He'd already seen the video. Of course he had. His campus buzzed with it. He pulled her into a bear hug. Sis, you broke the internet. For an hour they sat on library steps, Trey explaining algorithms and virality, Maya half listening. Her mind churned. Rent, tuition, electric bill. Minor keys next to the symphony roaring outside. A ping interrupted. An unknown number. Voicemail transcription. Ms. Dubois, this is Henry Beaumont. I believe we've both been swept into a rather unproductive media frenzy. I'd like to meet, privately, to resolve matters amicably. Call me. Resolve amicably. Code for silence. She deleted the message, heart drumming. Another call flashed. Good Morning Sunrise producers offering a prime segment if she could make it by 6 a.m. tomorrow. They'd send a car, rent money on a platter, but also her story dissected by strangers. Trey nudged her. Take the platform, use it. She thought of Celeste, lecturing on Flaubert. Le talent, c'est la hardiesse. L'œil qui voit, l'esprit qui ose. Talent is boldness, eyes that see, spirit that dares. Maya stood. Let's dare. Evening, Harlem. Luis arrived carrying coffee and a battered speaker. They sat at Maya's kitchen table amid scattered bills and printouts of interview requests. Luis grinned. I called my cousin at Voices Rising. They're a non-profit that fights workplace discrimination. They'll back you, press, lawyers, everything. Maya exhaled relief. I need allies. He produced a crumpled envelope, cash tips pooled by back-of-house staff. We passed the hat. You kept us alive last night. Tears pricked. I'll pay everyone back. Luis shook his head. You already did. The speaker crackled. He cued the Creole lullaby. Maya closed her eyes, letting the chords wash away tension. When the final note faded, she opened the Paris Conservatory letter, the one sealed since her mother died. Hands trembling, she unfolded it. Acceptance. Full scholarship. Dated 3 weeks after the funeral she never left New Orleans for. Grief punched, sudden and fresh, followed by a surge of fierce purpose. She'd forfeited one stage already. She would not forfeit another. She drafted a tweet. To every worker who's ever been mocked for their accent or silenced on the clock, your voice matters. Tomorrow we speak. Fluent in courage. Almost instantly, likes ticked upward. Retweets flared. The hashtag trended by midnight. Across town, inside a penthouse dripping with modern art, Henry Beaumont paced before twin wall screens showing finance channels and YouTube comment feeds. His publicist, Cassie, jabbed at her tablet. This is a nightmare, she snapped. You look like a cartoon villain. I was having fun, Henry muttered. Fun is ruining your brand. Sponsor deals are spooked. The senator wants distance. Henry poured scotch, hands shaking. I offered the woman money. She doesn't want hush money. She wants respect. Cassie paused. Give it to her publicly, and this flips. Henry stared out at the city, lights blinking like judgmental stars. Pride welded his jaw shut, yet fear seeped through the cracks. 2:14 a.m. Maya still couldn't sleep. She opened her mother's cassette again. Celeste's recorded lecture drifted through the room. La vraie richesse est le cœur. Real wealth is the heart. Maya whispered the line aloud, then pressed record on her phone, answering in French. Maman, demain je chanterai. Tomorrow I will sing. She drafted notes for the TV segment, stories of every immigrant dishwasher teaching themselves English, every janitor reciting poetry under their breath. Her narrative would not hinge on a billionaire's cruelty, but on a chorus of unheard voices. The phone dinged. An email from Voices Rising. Subject line, pro bono representation confirmed. Relief flooded. She set her alarm for 4 a.m., slipped the folded conservatory letter into her purse, and finally allowed herself to rest. Outside, dawn nudged the horizon. Inside, a new melody, equal parts Creole lullaby and untamed resolve, rippled through her dreams. Tomorrow the world would hear her accent and the story behind it. The studio lights were a hot, glittering desert, but Maya kept her shoulders squared as producers dusted powder across her forehead and clipped a tiny mic to her lapel. The good morning sunrise set bustled like a hive. Cameramen zigzagging cords, stagehands whispering countdowns. She sat on the velvet guest couch in a navy blazer borrowed from Trey, her mother's Paris conservatory letter folded in the inner pocket like armor. Across from her perched host, Krista Blake, America's breakfast sweetheart with million-watt smile and surgical instincts. A makeup artist fluffed Krista's blonde curls while the floor director raised 5 fingers. Then 4, 3, 2. We're live. Music faded. Krista leaned in. This morning, a video viewed over 12 million times in 12 hours. A billionaire challenges a waitress to perform in French. The clip rolled on a monitor. Maya's lullaby, Henry Beaumont's frozen face, the standing ovation. And the internet calls her number Creole Queen. Please welcome Maya Dubois. Applause thundered from the live audience. Maya inhaled. Thank you for having me. Krista's eyes shone with calculated empathy. Take us to that moment. Did you feel mocked? Maya steadied her voice. I felt reduced. Not because he questioned my language. People misjudge each other all the time. He weaponized power to entertain himself. Krista nodded gravely. Your restaurant placed you on unpaid leave hours later. Have they contacted you since? Only to ask for my uniform. A ripple of outrage rolled through the audience. Henry Beaumont's team says he regrets any offense. Krista glanced at her cue card. He's proposed a private settlement. Have you considered it? Maya unbuttoned her blazer, revealing a simple black tee that read, Fluent in Courage. I'd rather talk about workers who can't take off a shift to defend themselves on national television. If a billionaire wants to settle, let's make it public. Fund scholarships for multilingual students, boost minimum wage servers, create legal aid for workplace harassment. The crowd erupted. Tweets exploded on the side screen. Our Fluent in Courage vaulted to number 1. Krista raised both hands. You heard it here first. Mr. Beaumont, the ball is in your court. Brake lights blinked. Stagehands swarmed the set, but producers begged Maya to stick around for an extended segment at 9. She declined politely. She had a meeting with voices rising. Outside, gray clouds strangled the early sun. Luis waited at the curb, waving from a borrowed rideshare. He pumped his fist. 12 million, girl. You were smoother than satin. Feels like standing on a cliff with the wind at my back, Maya murmured, sliding in. Bracing, might fly, might fall. The car wove through traffic toward the nonprofit's downtown office. Posters of diverse faces lined the hallway. Janitors in caps, nurses in scrubs, taxi drivers gripping steering wheels, each stamped with the slogan, Your voice, your power. In a conference room smelling faintly of burnt coffee, civil rights attorney Reena Patel spread documents across a long table. First order of business, Reena said, tapping a memo. Wrongful termination. You have grounds. But bigger picture, a class action pathway for systemic harassment in hospitality. Staff from your restaurant are ready to testify. Maya's head spun. I wanted to sing, not trigger a courtroom saga. Sometimes singing and suing walk the same road, Reena replied, eyes kind but unwavering. Luis perked up. We need media leverage too. Press conference? Tonight, Reena agreed. Community Arts Center, 6 o'clock. We'll stream it live. Maya rubbed her temples. Then I need to rehearse. If I'm staking a movement on my voice, I can't crack on the first note. Reena slid a non-disclosure agreement across the table. Beaumont's lawyer emailed. They're offering $200,000 contingent upon silence and an apology for misunderstandings. Maya read the print, cold numbers against white void. She pictured her overdue bills, Trey's tuition, a future without ramen dinners and landlord threats. The sum could erase every red notification on her phone. Luis read her face. Easy money, but thin legacy. Maya folded the document. Legacy over hush money. 5 blocks uptown, Henry Beaumont sat in the rear of a black Escalade, phone pressed to his ear as the car idled outside his corporate headquarters. His publicist, Cassie, rattled off damage control strategies. Tonight's press conference will crucify us, she said. We need to get ahead. Donate to her scholarship idea. Henry cut her off. I don't take marching orders from a waitress. Right now, the waitress owns the march. Cassie's patience frayed. Sign the check, Henry. Make it 8 figures. Or be ready to kiss half your sponsors goodbye. Sirens wailed outside. Paparazzi vans chasing him like wolves. Beaumont's throat tightened. For the first time in years, he felt the familiar childhood sting of the stutter he'd spent money and therapy to bury. They're all... He disconnected, slamming the phone onto leather. Power that once felt infinite suddenly balanced on a public whim, and Maya Dubois held the scales. Back in Harlem, Maya stood before her bedroom mirror, humming scales, loosening the tension lodged beneath her sternum. She changed into dark jeans, a white blouse, and draped her mother's silk scarf over her shoulders. Royal blue fleur-de-lis dancing across it like tiny flags. Trey barged in, waving headlines. Look, ESPN invited you to perform the national anthem at Saturday's playoff, and Wesley Books called. He wants your memoir. He stopped at her expression. Overwhelming, huh? Maya exhaled. Opportunity avalanche. He handed her earbuds. Breathe. Listen to Mom. The cassette had been digitized. Celeste's lecture flowed in warm audio. Courage doesn't roar. It whispers at sunrise. I will try again. Maya's spine lengthened. She would try, louder than ever. Luis texted, stage set, community center packed. He attached a photo, folding chairs wall to wall, multilingual signs reading, we are not background music. Maya felt a surge of something deeper than fear, belonging. She pocketed the Paris Conservatory letter, her final talisman, and headed for the door. Dusk bled violet as cameras hummed in the community center's converted theater. Rena tapped the mic, feedback squealing. We stand with Maya Dubois, she declared, and every worker silenced by moneyed arrogance. Applause thundered. Maya stepped into the spotlight. Flashbulbs burst, but she saw only the first row. Line cooks in scuffed sneakers, housekeepers clutching translation headsets, elderly church ladies who taught ESL at the Y. She spoke in English first, voice low but steady. I was taught that language is a bridge, not a weapon. Yet too often, accents become targets. Tonight, we reclaim every rolled R, every swallowed vowel, every lullaby turned to laughter. She switched to French, then to Creole, each phrase translating the same message. Subtitles flickered on a screen behind her. Tears tracked down the cheeks of a Haitian dishwasher in row 2. Then she sang, not Piaf this time, but lift every voice and sing, weaving into a Creole refrain her mother once hummed while braiding Maya's hair. The room vibrated with call and response, voices rising in dozens of dialects, harmonizing on one heartbeat. When the final note dissolved, the hall erupted. Live stream numbers rocketed, donations to Voices Rising spiked. A notification flashed on Rena's tablet. Beaumont pledges $10 million to immigrant scholarships. Twitter roared with skepticism. PR stunt or real repentance? Maya stepped back to the mic, eyes shining. I welcome the pledge, if it comes with accountability. Mr. Beaumont, join us here. Publicly sign the endowment. Let the cameras roll. Journalists cheered. Rena's brows shot up. Bold move. Across the city, Henry watched the feed, knuckles white on his tumbler. Cameras captured his hesitation, magnified it into a meme. Maya ended with a quiet warning. Silence is expensive. Respect is priceless. The lights dimmed. Backstage, Rena gripped Maya's shoulders. You just shifted the narrative from victim to movement leader. Prepare for backlash. I was born in hurricanes, Maya replied, voice calm. I know how to stand in strong winds. Her phone buzzed. Unknown caller. She answered. A strained baritone filled her ear. Ms. Dubois, Henry Beaumont, you win. Let's sign the scholarship. Publicly. Name the time. Maya's heartbeat drummed. Tomorrow night at your charity gala. You'll match every dollar donated in that room. His pause was long. Finally. Agreed. She hung up, breath shaky. Luis appeared with water. You good? She smiled. Tired, resolute. I'm ready for the encore. In the subway home, Maya opened the conservatory letter once more. She dared to imagine 8-year-old her seated in a Paris lecture hall and 25-year-old her belting operatic arias on grand stages. The train rocked gently, and she realized the dream no longer felt distant. It felt like a station or two away, waiting for her to step off and claim it. She closed her eyes, humming the Creole lullaby, confident that tomorrow, beneath chandeliers or camera flashes, she would sing not because she was forced, but because the world finally listened. The rain paused just long enough for red carpet spotlights to carve bright lanes through the Manhattan night. Inside the plaza's gilded ballroom, polished marble-mirrored crystal chandeliers and violins rehearsed scales that fluttered like nervous birds. The annual Beaumont Foundation Gala, once a sleepy tax write-off dinner, now pulsed with electric curiosity. Was the billionaire about to kneel or double down? Maya inhaled the scent of waxed floors and cut roses as she stepped from the service elevator into a hush of reverent stares. Paparazzi lenses re-aimed, abandoning movie stars to capture the former waitress in a midnight blue gown that skimmed the floor like liquid ink. Luis walked beside her in a borrowed tux, clutching a slim tablet that monitored the livestream. Comments scrolled so fast they looked like rain. Across the room, Henry Beaumont adjusted his bow tie with twitchy fingers. His board of directors flanked him like anxious chess pieces. Cassie, the publicist, whispered, "Smile like you mean it. Cameras are hot." Henry's jaw clicked, but he forced a nod. His stutter lurked just beneath the silk veneer, waiting to crack through at any mistimed syllable. A pianist announced dinner with a flourish, and tables filled under domed silver cloches. Maya was ushered to table 3, sandwiched between the Harlem Children's Chorus director and an investigative journalist live streaming to 3 million followers. Every guest held a phone aloft, ready to chronicle the smallest misstep. The hush felt less like admiration and more like taut fishing line. At 8:07 p.m., the lights dimmed. A single spotlight snapped onto the dais where Beaumont approached the podium. Sweat glimmered along his temple. Ladies and gentlemen," he began, breath catching. He cleared his throat. "Tonight we celebrate generosity." A polite smattering of applause. He forged on, stilted but determined. In response to recent events, the Beaumont Foundation pledges $10 million, matched dollar for dollar, with every donation made this evening to fund immigrant language scholarships. The room erupted. Henry's board exhaled relief, but Cassie caught Maya's eye with a silent plea. "Help him finish." Maya rose. Murmurs swelled as she mounted the steps. She took the mic, voice steady. "Gratitude is a good beginning, but transparency seals trust. Mr. Beaumont has agreed to sign the endowment contract, right here, right now, and to place a worker representative on his foundation's board." She extended a folder. Cameras zoomed so close they captured the tremor in Henry's hand. For a charged second, the billionaire hesitated, pride and panic warring behind his gaze. Then, with a visible swallow, he uncapped the pen and signed. Flashbulbs strobed, catching the moment ink touched paper. Twitter's live counter spiked past 6 million viewers. Lewis whispered, "Trending worldwide." Applause thundered, yet tension lingered like aftershocks. A hedge fund titan leaned toward his tablemate, sneering something about performative charity. Maya heard it, so did Henry. To everyone's surprise, he addressed the room again. "Performance?" His voice wavered but held. "Perhaps, but tonight the performance is mine. Learning humility in public." He turned to Maya, eyes glassy. "Would you honor us with a song?" The request landed like a gauntlet. Accept and she risked looking complicit. Refuse in tabloids would paint her ungrateful. She drew a breath. "If I sing, every guest must open their pledge page. We'll watch donations rise in real time." Gasps, then scattered laughter of admiration. A giant LED behind the stage flickered to a blue screen labeled "Live Donations, $0." The pianist offered the bench. Maya shook her head. "I brought my own accompaniment." Luis tapped his tablet. Soft guitar chords, the Creole lullaby, flowed through hidden speakers. Maya stepped into the center of the ballroom as servers froze in respectful stillness. She sang first in French, notes warm as candlelight, then eased into English lyrics she'd written that afternoon. Every accent holds a cradle, every syllable a scar. But stitched together they make an anthem strong enough to pull down stars. Phones lit up like constellations. The LED counter rolled. 100K, 250K, 500,000, each digit flipping faster than the last. The investigative journalist stream exploded with heart emojis and donation screenshots. Somewhere near the bar, a young sous chef wiped tears on a linen napkin. Mid-verse, Maya caught Henry's eyes. They were shining, not from champagne, but from something softer, older. When the song crested, she modulated into Creole, weaving her mother's lullaby, then finished on a long, suspended note that hung in the chandeliers and shivered back down through crystal stems. Silence. Then a roar so loud the string quartet covered their ears. The LED counter froze at 4.8 million, and then leapt to an even 10 million as an anonymous donor closed the gap. The ballroom shook with applause, but a commotion erupted near the entrance. A red-faced board member, Alistair Crane, shouting into his phone. Maya couldn't hear the words, but his gestures were clear. Cut Beaumont's funding, salvage the portfolio. The threat of internal sabotage loomed like a storm cloud. Henry strode off stage, cornered Crane, and, on camera, fired him with 2 clipped sentences. The crowd gasped. Microphones caught only Crane's stunned silence. Beaumont returned, shoulders lighter, as though a lifelong suit of armor had cracked open. He reclaimed the mic. If courage is fluent, he said, voice clear, then so must I become. He turned to Maya. Thank you for teaching me the language. For the first time, she believed him. Reporters jostled toward her, but she held a palm up. Tonight isn't my press conference, she said. It's a promise fulfilled. Let's dance. The quartet swung into jazz. Servers poured champagne. Louis spun her once on the parquet, laughing. Donations kept rolling. The LED glitched trying to keep up. Near midnight, the Harlem Children's Chorus director approached with an offer. Headline their summer gala at Carnegie Hall. Maya's heart thumped. She accepted, voice barely above a whisper. Outside, cameras awaited statement. Maya simply raised her mother's blue scarf to the sky like a banner. Real wealth is the heart, she said, and flashed a peace sign. Back inside, Beaumont handed Celeste's scarf back. He'd retrieved it when it slipped during the song. May I keep the paper plane tip? He asked with a sheepish half-smile. The once crisp $100 bill was now framed in glass by a gala artist. Inscription added beneath, Tomorrow sing. Maya laughed softly and nodded, a relic of arrogance reclaimed as a reminder. As the ballroom emptied, Maya stood center floor, shoes in hand, feeling the cool marble under sore feet. The night no longer felt like standing on a cliff. It felt like planting a flag. Yet she sensed one more encore awaited, a final lesson larger than contracts or applause. Louis waved from the exit, mouthing, Ready for Carnegie? She grinned, ready for anything. But outside, beyond velvet ropes and flashing bulbs, headlines morphed. Waitress topples Titan, scholarship triumph or PR spin. Workers' nationwide plan walkout inspired by #Fluent Encourage. The movement had outgrown her, pulsing through arteries of social media into boardrooms and break rooms she'd never set foot in. Tomorrow the fight would widen. Tonight, however, she allowed triumph to settle on her shoulders like the hush before dawn. She whispered to the empty hall, to her mother, to every dishwasher rehearsing English beneath breath. Encore coming soon. Dawn slid across the skyline like a quiet encore, gilding everything it touched. Maya woke to find her apartment washed in soft gold and her phone buzzing itself into a slow spin on the nightstand. Notifications piled like confetti. News anchors replaying the contract signing, service worker, TikToks lip-syncing her Creole refrain, a Senate staffer requesting testimony for a labor rights hearing next month. But threaded between the cheers were darker notes. Anonymous voicemails growling, "Stay in the kitchen." A cease and desist email from the restaurant chain's legal department accusing her of concerted defamation. Maya read it once, then slid it into a folder labeled Fuel. At 9, she met Luis outside an old bodega on Lenox Avenue. A for lease sign hung crooked over peeling teal paint. Corner exposure, decent kitchen hookups, he said, eyes bright. Could be the cafe we dreamed about. Languages on the menu. Open mic in the back. Maya ran a palm across the dusty window. Walls need love, but so did we. They traded a grin, then hurried south. The Harlem Children's Chorus awaited. Inside Carnegie Hall's rehearsal room, 40 kids in crisp polos stood at attention. Their choir director clapped once. Phones off, history in session. Maya counted 2 measures, inhaled, and the children answered her lead like bells in perfect canon. English melted into French, then into Yoruba, a river of sound braiding cultures instead of damming them apart. Halfway through, she noticed a familiar figure at the door. Henry Beaumont, alone, no entourage, clutching a portfolio. He listened, head bowed, until the final chords shimmered out. He approached, voice low. Board seat papers. He handed over signed documents naming Maya as worker liaison to the Beaumont Foundation. Effective immediately. The pen strokes were shakier than his gala signature, but they were real. Maya thanked him with a nod. No forgiveness speech, no lingering handshake. Redemption was his journey, and she had stages to claim. Mid-afternoon, the city pulsed with something new. Solidarity. Baristas in Brooklyn filmed a walkout chanting number, Fluent in Courage. Line cooks in Queens banged pots for hazard pay negotiations. News choppers whirred overhead like impatient bees. At 4 o'clock, Maya and Rena stood on the courthouse steps, announcing a class action suit for systemic harassment across 9 restaurant chains. Reporters crowded so close Maya could feel camera lenses breathe. She raised her mother's blue scarf high. Every accent holds a cradle, she said, voice ringing against granite. And tonight the cradle rocks the giants awake. The street roared back approval. Night fell, but the momentum refused to sleep. Spotlights lit Carnegie's pale stone facade. A sold-out banner fluttered over the doors. Inside the main hall, a full orchestra tuned, a tidal hum of possibility. Maya checked the wings. Trey in a suit too big, beaming. Luis pacing with a clipboard, mouthing setlist cues. The chorus lined in crisp whites, eyes wide with nerves and wonder. An usher handed Maya a slim envelope, postmarked Paris, current date. Inside, an invitation to audition for the conservatory's fall term, scholarship still honored. Her hands trembled. She tucked the letter next to her heart, beneath silk and determination. House lights dimmed. The conductor lifted his baton. Maya stepped into the circle of light center stage, the hush so complete she could hear her own breath. Cameras streamed to millions, but the moment felt intimate, like singing in her mother's kitchen. She began softly, Je te veux by Satie, letting each vowel bloom. The hall leaned closer. Mid-area, she pivoted into amazing grace, threaded with Creole inflections. Violins swelled. The children's choir entered like dawn breaking over water. Audience tears glittered. In the front row, dishwashers from her old restaurant wore borrowed jackets, clutching each other's sleeves. Henry sat 3 rows back, no cameras allowed, head bowed in quiet contrition. The finale arrived, a soaring original piece she had penned on the subway, lyrics stitching French, English, Swahili, and Spanish into one long breath of defiance and hope. She held the last note until lungs burned and chandelier crystals quivered. Silence, perfect, weightless, then an eruption. The entire hall surged to its feet. Applause rolled like thunder trapped in velvet. Programs flew skyward. Violins wept on open strings. Maya's knees threatened to give, but the roar held her up, a living tide. A crimson curtain descended, then rose again. Second ovation, third. Stage hands blinked back tears. The conductor pressed a hand to his heart. Backstage, Trey crushed her in a hug. 6 minutes standing, oh, he shouted over the din. Luis appeared, phone aloft. Donations to the scholarship fund had doubled during the performance, crossing $20 million. Rena hurried in with breaking news. Congress had just announced a bipartisan hearing on service industry protections, citing Maya's case as catalyst. They want your testimony next month. Maya exhaled, the weight of history settling like a robe across her shoulders. Tell them I'll bring the chorus, she said. Let Washington hear every voice. She walked to the stage door, opened it to cool night air, fragrant with street cart pretzels and spring rain. Across the plaza, protesters and fans mingled, chanting "Fluent! In! Courage!" in polyrhythmic waves. Maya lifted her scarf. The blue fleur-de-lis fluttered like battle colors, and the crowd answered with a fresh cheer. For a heartbeat, she saw her mother at the fringe, softly clapping, smile proud and misty. Maya blinked. The vision dissolved into camera flashes, but the warmth remained, stitched into her ribs. She whispered to the night, to every accent echoing off skyscrapers, "Encore coming soon," turned and let the stage door close behind her with a quiet, certain click. Morning light spilled through the taped-up windows of the Lenox Avenue storefront, illuminating dust motes that danced like mini spotlights. A week had passed since Carnegie, but the city still hummed with the note Maya had left hanging in the air. Contractors hammered, scraping away decades of neglect to make room for a cafe that would serve stories alongside coffee. Luis balanced on a ladder, painting the first word of the new sign, polyglot, each letter a different color, every brushstroke a vow. Inside, Maya guided kids from the Harlem Children's Chorus as they pinned welcome posters in English, Spanish, French, Amharic, and ASL. Between swings of the hammer, they rehearsed a soft riff of the Creole lullaby, turning construction noise into percussion. Maya's brother Trey skimmed invoices at a makeshift desk, marveling that scholarship donations had cleared tuition for every chorus member and several dozen more. Mid-afternoon, Maya stepped outside for air. Across the street, she spotted an elderly dishwasher from her old restaurant watching shyly. She waved him over. He shuffled across traffic, clutching an envelope. "Tips," he said, voice raspy. "We passed the hat again? Cafe needs cups." Maya pressed the envelope back into his hands. "You keep it, Mr. Jean. Buy new work shoes. Come sing with us when we open." His eyes glistened. "Voice is old," he joked. "Age just deepens the bass," she answered, and they shared a laugh that stitched two lifetimes together. Back inside, Luis clicked the tablet. News of service industry protests rolling across 15 states, rallies chanting number Fluent and Courage. New legislation was already drafted requiring anti-harassment training in large restaurant groups. Rena texted updates from Capitol Hill. Maya's testimony set for next Thursday, prime coverage guaranteed. The weight of that responsibility pressed on Maya like a second heart. She retreated to the back room where light slanted through cracked brick. On a folding chair rested the framed $100 paper airplane, Henry's original insult, now artifact. She traced the glass, remembering every tremor the night he threw it. Then she placed a sticky note beside it, turned mockery into music. Her mother's voice echoed, "Real wealth is the heart." A soft knock. Henry Beaumont stood in the doorway. No cameras, no entourage. Just a man in a charcoal coat, hat in hand. "I won't stay," he said, "but I owed you proof." He handed over a bound ledger. First disbursement of the Beaumont Dubois Scholarship, 10 million wired, board seat annotated with Maya's liaison role. She skimmed the pages, numbers transformed into opportunities for thousands of unseen talents. Henry cleared his throat. "I learned something at your concert. When I was a boy, I stuttered. People laughed. I bought the world to keep it quiet. You sang, and I heard my own silence." Maya nodded. "Power used to build walls can also build bridges." He offered a tentative smile. "If you ever need funding for this place, call. We'll hold you to that." They shook hands, a contract older than ink. That evening, Polyglot's team gathered in the half-finished cafe, drywall dust floating like pollen. They balanced takeout containers on upturned crates. Louis uncorked sparkling cider. Trey raised a plastic cup. To every accent that refused to bow. They clinked in a circle. Maya spoke, voice soft but caring. "We opened the door with a song, but the choir outside is enormous. Keep singing even when no one pays. That's how walls vibrate loose." Phones buzzed. The inaugural video on Polyglot's channel had just gone live. A montage of workers reading poetry in their native tongues, spliced with clips of Maya's lullaby. Within minutes, views spiked, comments flooding in. "I still hide my accent at work, but maybe tomorrow. Where can I donate mugs in Swahili?" "My Irish grandma cried hearing the chorus." Maya typed a reply, eyes misty. If you've ever been mocked for how you speak or how you dream, tell your story in the comments, and let's build a library of voices. And if you believe every syllable deserves respect, tap the like button so the algorithm knows courage is trending. She hit post and felt an internal click, like threads tying her to an unseen choir across time zones. Near midnight, the contractors left, and the cafe settled into hush. Maya pulled a folding chair to the front window. Outside, Harlem pulsed. Taxi horns, laughter, a street drummer riffing on paint buckets. She remembered nights bus-serping trays beneath chandeliers that didn't know her name. The taste of adrenaline when cameras caught her first note. The ache of choosing legacy over hush money. Each memory glowed warm, like embers ready to kindle someone else's fire. She opened the Paris Conservatory invitation, ticket to a dream deferred. Instead of fear, she felt spacious calm. She could attend in the fall, live stream lessons back to the chorus, turn polyglot into a global hub. The map felt wide and reachable. A voice filled the stillness, soft, Creole-laced. For a heartbeat, Maya thought it was her mother, but it was her own reflection in the glass, humming La Vie en Rose to the city that once dared her to be silent. She sang the refrain quietly, each syllable a stepping stone, and imagined millions of small echoes answering from dish pits, delivery vans, call center cubicles, voices rising into a single chord no billionaire could ever buy. Maya closed her eyes, breathing in the promise. Tomorrow would bring hearings, headlines, maybe backlash. But she had learned the ultimate lesson. Courage multiplies when shared. Dignity speaks every language, and wealth measured in hearts will never devalue. She whispered to the empty tables. Encore started the moment we didn't stop. The cafe lights clicked off one by one, mosaic of twilight settling. On the door, a handwritten sign awaited morning foot traffic. Opening soon. Bring your accent and your appetite for hope. And on the sidewalk outside, as if the city itself responded, a passerby hummed the lullaby's melody, carrying it into night. Maya smiled, locked the door, and walked home under street lamps flickering like faint spotlights, the standing ovation of ordinary life following her every step.